Woo! Here we are, HellaBass Live. What's up, everybody? Got special guests. What's up, Max? How you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm glad we could finally schedule a meshing of the channels here.
I think we call it a collaboration in the
Yeah,
business.
it just sounded a lot cooler when I said it like that.
That's what the kids call it, a collaboration.
Yeah, let's old farts collabing.
We figured out the multi-stream, so you might be on the Bateman stream, you might be on the HellaBass stream, but everybody's welcome. We're all chatting and hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked me some overtime today, and HellaBass said yesterday, "Why don't you come on stream?" Because I was trying to get Hella on my channel yesterday because I didn't work, but it worked out. Didn't work too much. We're here. We got some hot topics we want to cover. As I said,
Yep.
Hot takes with HellaBass. Some could be a little cool. Some could be hot. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's just been like a whole, I don't know, crap ton of stuff that has gone on. I see a bunch of we got some. I see some people checking in from different channels. It's like these guys are watching
cool.
on the Bateman channel. I can kind of tell who it is. It's kind of using the new feature here. And then a lot of people watching on the HellaBass stream as well. So awesome to see everybody. Darius said the fish was a little slow in Kentucky yesterday.
So what I've been told, and maybe Darius can back this up because Darius fishes a lot more than I do, and he's fun to fish with. But I've been told you can catch them about any way you want to. And I looked at our Tuesday night tournament results. It took 13.5 pounds to win. That's a 3-fish limit. I know the guy who won. He's a great fisherman.
Sure.
And I just haven't been out there enough. I'm wondering if these fish have come up real shallow finally. I feel like our largemouth were way behind. I've seen a lot more largemouth weighed in. And our good buddy Adam Bartusek, hopefully I pronounced that right, got second there in the
Bartusek. Yeah.
Bartusek. Sorry. Well, I just like to call him Bart. And
Yeah.
but he got second. Just that tournament was dominated with smallmouth.
Absolutely. And are you able to bring up comments on your end or just on
Yeah,
mine?
matter of fact, I got a donation here from Hunter Nixon. Somebody did. And shout out for a $5 make you holler. Hunter Nixon, great dude. He's been catching a lot of bass. He's been
absolutely.
putting a new
Awesome.
6 cents worm to work. I saw that. So, do you got a commercial? You got a plug? You need to go for a plug
No,
right
yeah,
here?
we got. Tonight's stream is presented by Arsenal Fishing and boosted by Powerhouse Lithium, at least on the HellaBass side. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't have any lithiums, for my bank beaten backpack. But you know what? If I did have lithium and do get a boat, I will probably boost it up with some Powerhouse Lithium.
There you
I've heard
go.
nothing but good things. That's a non-sponsored plug there. If I was sponsored, I would. Well, if I wasn't sponsored, I'd probably put the Powerhouse in there.
Yeah, well, I did see one. So Travis Stearman says, "Why is Bernie on the thumbnail?" And this one kind of slid under the radar because I think Caleb Kuphall is a bit of a stand-up guy, and we'll get to that. I'm not quite ready. I'm uploading something so I can share some stuff here. So we'll come back to that, Travis. But there is a reason that Bernie.
I was quick on getting that too.
We're working on uploading and processing of that. What's up, RJ?
Yeah, what's up, man? I see RJ just throwing around money in the JDM groups, like buying Megabass all the time. Like
RJ does love him some 110s. That's
yeah,
for sure.
man. I guarantee you, he got some of these. This ain't a Megabass. I bet you, and you probably can find these on Omnia still or Tackle Warehouse, wherever you want to shop. You can use Hella's code on Omni or my link. That's that Northern Secret juice. I mean. Before they re-released this bait, these things were going for like $200 a pop. I'm probably going to fish this. That's the right colors there. A little purple, a little yellow on the belly.
And honestly, I haven't bought that color because I've been smoking them on the Re-Range Secret Shad 2, which is really similar. And this past weekend, so I was on a fishing bender from this is the time of year my wife and kids go out of town with their in-laws for a little bit. So I'd fished for 11 days straight. But this past weekend I was up on Vermilion up north getting ready for a tournament. I had a tournament actually on Monday, and 52, 53 degree water. They were chewing the sides off jerkbaits, and my buddy and I, we only weighed 17.5 pounds, but we both easily had a 15-pound plus limit ourselves in the tournament. We were catching 2 to 3 pound smallies left and right on jerkbaits, and he was throwing a 110 plus one. some fancy color, and I was throwing that re-range MR, and we went fish for fish all practice, all weekend. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, I like the re-range. One, it casts really well, but it will, if you've never thrown the re-range or a Megabass LBO, it has the same kind of deal.
Okay.
When you go snap your rod forward, it makes that pow. The first time I ever threw it, I thought I hit somebody's rod. I was like, what the crap? Yeah. Duck, where they at? And I realized it was the bait. But it will cast really good in the wind. And I do think that's an advantage at some times.
Somebody used the coupon code. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, you can flat out outcast a 110 with a re-range. That re-range casts a mile, especially if you have to cast into the wind. And actually, RJ jumped in my boat last week and took him out fishing one night after work because he was getting some stuff done at in-tune.
Aaron says, does anyone know the hooks Megabass uses? Yes, I think you can find them in most retailers. They're called a Kotz. God dang, I can't pronounce. Dude, I live in Kentucky. I'm going to say Kotzsuage hook. It's spelled Katsuage. It's got the out barbs on them. Now, here's a hot take. A lot of guys say, I hate Megabass hooks. The one time I went fishing with Matt Allen, he literally made fun of me for leaving them on there. Said those are junk. How can you can't catch a giant bass or pull the hooks, blah, blah. First 10 minutes fishing with him, I caught an 8-pounder. Stuck. So I actually do like the hooks, but you can't have an overpowered jerkbait rod. And you've got to learn to, when you hook up on a Vision 110, you can't just Jacob Wheeler them in. You've got to let the rod do some work.
Absolutely. And I've never really had problems with them bending out, fighting the fish. It's when I go to remove them from the fish's mouth that I tweak them.
Yes, I will agree with that.
And so they do wear out. Like, they're sharp, but you catch, 5, 6, 8 good ones, and there's a pretty good chance that you're might be able to
the one thing is they're on a jerkbait, so you're not like hitting stuff on the bottom like you would like a rock crawler or a square bill or something like that.
This is what I've been using. So I like to use the ones that come on them until they wear them out. They get dull. I bend them, I break them, whatever. And then I go to these Ichikawa's regular wire, which are pretty light, and I feel like these are pretty good replacements.
I've never used them, but I've heard a lot of good things.
And they're actually pretty reasonable. So the number 6 comes with 7 per pack for $8.49.
It's not bad. I like the G Finesse, Aaron Martin's trebles.
Yeah.
But they are a little pricey. I like decoys as well. Decoy makes a really good treble hook. It's like a YMF 35F or something like that.
And the code down on the bottom of the screen will hook you up on Omni and save you an extra 15% on these already pretty affordable Ichikawa hooks. So definitely worth a look.
Yeah, I actually save almost about a 10%, it's 85. So yeah, you're actually saving about $1 a pack. So that's really not bad at all.
I can't hear you. Who can't you hear?
Uh-oh.
I feel like Colby just spent like 10 grand at Omni. What did you get, Colby? And did you use my code?
He bought the whole dang store.
Did you buy some anchors? You could have bought some electronics or some anchors.
Right.
Yeah. There you go. You got new electronics for the Icon that he got. Tim Maynard likes the Ichikawas. What's up, Tim?
Yeah, man. What's up, Tim? Long time no see, buddy.
Hopefully they throw in some jerky for you, Colby, with that order.
I love some beef jerky. You ever been to Buc-ee's?
I went down to Knoxville, and you couldn't make it over there, but I was like wanted to get there, and I was on the phone with my wife because I left Indianapolis, and I drove by a Buc-ee's, but I was tied up on the phone doing stuff, and I really wanted to stop because I had never been to one, but I ended up not making it.
Yeah, we stopped there in Cookville, me and Junior. I can't remember if I went the week. I think I went the week before or 2 weeks before the Classic to basketball game. Dude, that Buc-ee's, it's off the chain. So I'm a lemonade connoisseur, and they have some really good lemonade.
Okay.
I quit the Mountain Dew, so it's lemonade and sugar free for me. You got our topic loaded up. yet? Is it ready?
Well, we don't have the Bernie thing loaded up. It's still uploading to my drive here. But
the people might be ready for a hot take.
We could talk. Let's see. We have Bernie on the topic, which we're gonna have to get back to. We've got the Wheeler Lake Hole Buzzards.
Yeah.
We've got the Poche, and we've got the Duckett.
A lot of people haven't been talking about the Duckett either.
I think the only way to do this, I think we should. I'm gonna make a little poll here, a little live poll on.
Sure.
We'll let the fans decide where we go.
Rich 17 said he used your code as well.
Right on, Rich. What'd you get, buddy?
Rich making rich.
Do appreciate the support. Absolutely. Boyd.
Colby says he got lucky and won $50K in a drawing last year.
Holy what? Smokes. And the last one was Poche DQ. All right.
I don't know, Chuck. I need to talk to Epic Eric. I still owe him a package from like 2 years ago.
Daniel said he already used both. He's waiting for next month.
I'll probably get Eric on here this fall or something. When we
I had Eric on. Maybe I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you had. We did 2.5 hours of straight bass hacks. That was a fun show.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that. I think I watched a little bit live. I might have been at work. But yeah, I'll get Eric on. He's fishing a lot right now, and I'm working a lot. So, but I miss that guy. He's a really good dude. And I don't stream as much as I used to. I'll do these spurts where I'll stream like 3 or 4 times in like 2 weeks, and then something comes up. These kids, they're always into something. Junior's fixing to start football again, so I'm trying to be more consistent. So. I will say I got a giveaway going on, and I got a draw for it. So if y'all want to go ahead and get on that, go to the stream I just did and leave a comment, and you'll be entered in the giveaway. You got to be a subscriber, and if you're a channel member. So I got a bunch of custom baits from this Paul crew. HellaBass, watch it. Super awesome stuff. And I made 2 little 3,600 boxes and give away one to a channel member, one to a subscriber. So
I've been kind of
do that.
I've seen him for I've been aware of Paul for a long time. He does some really.
So I like that he kind of does his own thing. I'm not trying to badmouth anyone that has Do It Mostly. I got one right here. I don't pour plastics, but everything's like hand done. And the way he told me, everything's one bait at a time. I'm not saying he just has one mold, but it's one pour, and it's really cool, unique. I mean, there's no way I'll ever use all that stuff, so I'm gonna save stuff for some more giveaways, whatnot. But like the little goby thing, dude, that's wild. I mean, you could use it here as a normal swim bait, but like where you're at, up north, St. Clair, Erie, places like that, I could see that doing some really good damage. But I like those, his long straight tail worms, man. That's kind of my wheelhouse. I like.
Maybe we'll show some of them off a little bit later. All right, so the people have spoken. They want to talk about the Hole Buzzards first.
Okay.
So let's set. I do have I can share this here.
It's a really good topic because we have a lot of them here on Kentucky Lake, or used to when everybody wanted to come fish here.
So, ledge fishing, Wheeler Lake, Bassmaster Open, and it really kind of started, I think, a little bit here when Ben Milliken made this post on. At least I saw it on Instagram. Maybe it was posted other places. But he was a little bit unhappy with the boat flip. I mean, it happens. He had a top 40 boat draw the first day, which means he was in the bottom 40 the second day. He gets on his first spot the first day, catches 18 pounds. He's sitting in the top 15. Had a good day. Things are rolling. And then, and people came in on him the first day. We're fishing around him. And, bent hole buzzards, red rod. Yeah, I mean, any way you want to say it. Yeah, that's kind of what they're getting at. The other kind of sight fishermen, the ones where they see fish being caught, and then they go over there. And so he made this post, and Matt and him were sharing some water the second day, and they actually went into a pretty deep dive today on BTL. But in the heat of the moment, they weren't very happy with each other. And when Ben's post came out, Matt was in the back of the photo. This is Pangrak's boat here. And they got into it a little bit in the comments on Instagram. I don't know if they saved all these comments or not. Problem with Ben's post, there's a million comments on him. So
yeah, he's kind of a popular dude.
Yeah, for good reason. So you could probably go in there and find all the comments. Oh, so it looks like maybe it was deleted. Maybe I would guess that Matt deleted it.
Right.
It'd be my guess is not that Ben deleted it, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I think I made a comment on there, but it wasn't bad. It was just, like.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, according to Matt, he was bottom 10 boat, so he was top 10 boat the second day. And, he found these fish. He intended to start there. He didn't know Ben fished there until he talked to Andrew Upshaw. So, and then he went and he had the courtesy to tell Ben that he was going to fish there and let him know so that, that Ben could come in, and Ben did come in. And then when Ben got there, he wasn't happy with the way Matt was set up on the spot because Matt was fishing it different with him. And Ben felt like he wanted to be casting where Matt's boat was, and that added to the frustration because he felt like he knew the spot better, or he knew what he needed to do, or at least what worked for him yesterday. And they kind of hashed it all out on BTL today. So
yeah,
if you saw the BTL thing today, they talked after the tournament and everything's cool. But in the heat of the moment, neither one of them was very happy with each other. And this is just indicative of what happens in ledge tournaments,
especially
period,
on
right?
the Tennessee
you could
River.
This being a Kentucky Lake guy. So why don't you give your kind of take on?
Well, so look, obviously me and Ben are good buddies, and Pangrak's been on my channel several times, and I like Matt. He's a really good guy, and I don't think Matt would ever hole buzz somebody intentionally. I also don't think Ben would lash out with that kind of frustration and intentionally try to hurt Matt or slander him. And I think we saw that Ben also admitted the only person that really had to blame is me. I've been there. I've fished tournaments for a long time here on Kentucky Lake, and everybody wants to fish the ledges. And dude, it will burn you out because if you don't get that early boat draw, you're basically take a number. And the only thing I'll say is about that situation is I'm glad they really hashed it out. And I figured they would. I didn't think like Ben was going to be on BTL and be like, you suck and I'm going to F you up at the ramp. No, that wasn't going to happen. I think they both have respect for each other. I actually have seen some worse stuff, and we got something coming up. I actually think it was worse than that right there. But they hashed it out, and, anytime I've had that happen, other than one time, I've usually been able to hash it out with somebody. And, it is actually a waiting game, ledge fishing. It's not like you just pull up to the ledge and they're always biting and they're bam, bam, bam in the boat. It's really dependent on current. It's exactly how you set up. You said it, Ben said he was frustrated because how he was set up. Well, maybe when Matt practiced, he was his magical cast was a totally different direction and angle than Ben's. And then, Ben thought he had the magical angle. Sometimes both are right, sometimes both are wrong. Those fish could have very easily moved 50 to 75 yards, maybe 100 yards, and they could have both blanked. I mean, that happens a lot. Or
and Panger said when he pulled up, he started fishing there, and he was catching walleye and sockeye and other things and not bass. And then when he moved up, he did start catching bass. So, yeah. He was sitting where Ben felt the fish were, and Ben thought he could see him on his scope, and maybe Ben could tell they were bass, maybe he couldn't. So,
right.
Yeah,
which is interesting because in the heyday here on Kentucky Lake, we didn't have forward-facing sonar and all that. It's basically you run a cycle of different baits. You side scan, you find the fish, and you figure out what they're biting on. Sometimes they're moved. That's why you saw like Jason Lambert and Edwin Evers and even KVD. They scan, and fish for 5-10 minutes and don't get a bite. You move on. Wheeler's a lot different than Kentucky Lake. You got this big area known as the Decatur Flats, and that's where your ditches, your stump rows, road beds, and it's a big area, but it still fishes small. Mm-hmm. Whereas Kentucky Lake, dude, there's ledges from the dam all the way to New Johnsonville, Tennessee, and even an open, it will kind of fish small, but you can get away from people. And if you have a milk run, so I might have, practice. We might find 20 schools of fish, and we'd always try to find a couple oddball places. Maybe you could find ones and twosies inside a bay or something where guys aren't fishing. So if you get a late boat number, you got something to fall back on. So, our plan was always, if we don't get an early boat number, we're going to go topwater fishing, pick off 3 or 4, and sometimes that worked really good. And then you got 9 hours to catch a kicker or two. So if they don't always kick that current on at 9 o'clock in the morning. It might be 12:31, and some people get really frustrated, and they go to bank beating, and all of a sudden it's glory hole. It's open. You just pull in. But the one thing I saw a lot of people talk about, it's a community hole and all that. I don't agree, because it's a community hole. It shouldn't be. Everybody can fish it at the same time. To me, community hole means it's a place where people fish a lot. Doesn't mean they fish next to each other and bump a trolling motors.
Right.
Community hole just means it's a place where it's on a map or people know it gets fished a lot. But the one thing about, they're not community holes because you don't catch fish there. The community holes because people have caught a lot of fish there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in this widest bass schedule event, I mean, some lakes fish small, some don't. I don't know. I'm sure the Opens get a little bit of money for bringing a tournament to town, not
absolutely.
quite the scale the elites do. So I'm sure whatever
I would like to look
city
at the
they were taken out of threw them $10,000. I mean, it's economics, and they said it was a beautiful. I mean, they both said one of the best ramps and facilities they've used ever was that 12 wide ramp that they took out of, which was probably right in Decatur.
It's a 5-star bass fishing boat ramp. I've been there. It's elite. I would like to see the logistics on an open versus elite series on the economics wise, because you got to think about this. Open, you're bringing co-anglers, 200 plus boats, so that's double, triple the hotel rooms, double, triple gas spent, food, lodging.
I think the direct impact for an open would be much greater, but the indirect, right, with the publicity and the exposure is you pay for the tour level, like the elites, right?
Correct. Yeah. Now, if they ever get to where they're live streaming the opens, 5 or 6, bass live in the open, I could see it really getting some play.
And they started playing these things years ago. They don't, I mean, Wheeler could have, had more grass or less grass, which would have made it fish bigger or whatever. So those things happen. Brian, I have not fished Wheeler. I fished Wilson. I fished Pickwick. I fished Gunnersville. But it's a kind of time of year too.
Wheeler was basically the armpit of the TVA. Like the time I fished it is like Kentucky Lake has been the last 3 or 4 years. Where's the freaking bass at? I mean, it looked gorgeous. It don't fish any different than Kentucky Lake or Pickwick, but it really wasn't that fun. In the last year or two, it's caught fire. It's got grass, and it's got a lot of gizzards and threadfin, all that stuff that we lacked, and it didn't get the pressure that Gunnersville. Poor Pickwick is getting beat like a redheaded stepchild.
Right, and
it's bad there.
It's about to be Wheeler, the old Wheeler.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting though, because as I was growing up, Kentucky Lake was in this downturn when I really started learning ledge fishing and all, and then about 2005, man, it started getting a little better, and then 2008 to 12, it got pretty dang good. Like, it was fun. That was when you caught those 70 to 100 fish days. Mm-hmm. But people forget those weren't all 3-5 pounders. They're mostly 14 to 16 inches. Then you have 2014 to 2017, the heyday. Anybody could come out here, throw a big worm, a football jig, and a crankbait and catch 20 plus pounds on community holes or you just, hey, look, a rock pile. Oh, there's a road bed. We'll just fish down this. And boom, you run into a school. So I think in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see some shifting on the Tennessee River. I think Kentucky Lake's going to go way up on the list, even if it's just for the smallmouth. Dude, we got them. That's a hot take. I'll say in 3 to 4 years, Kentucky Lake will be back as the premier Tennessee River lake.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I was trying to get something queued up for the next hot take. So,
these comments are great tonight.
Yeah, people are interactive tonight. That's awesome.
Colby says, we have club rules that basically state if you can cast to other anglers' boat, they can be disqualified. Our lakes here are tiny, so we have a ton of these issues. What if you got those speed spool bearings and you can cast like 100 yards just flicking your wrist?
Yeah.
And there has to be a cutoff because, I could tie a 10XD on and just with a 10-foot cranking rod. Oh, you're DQ myself there.
Clay, I don't think you remember right. I think Starks beat KVD.
Correct. I think Starks even.
Starks was a KVD. He did
smack.
In the morning. He said KVD who as he was going out boat number 1 with KVD right behind him, and he held him off.
I'm trying to think of another. The Wheeler event I remember.
The Takahiro won one where he blew everybody's doors off.
Yeah, with this guy. He was throwing the Bass Pro XPS, black and white one, and dude, he had welded that sucker together, which is really cool. So, I should say this to another hot take, but everybody's all about the mag draft. It's got the harness system. Dude, this bait right here is one more money than a mag draft, and it has a harness, maybe not a magnet, but Takahiro actually made his line through. He said, I only got like 3 left, so I had to make line through. Dude jumped on him. All right, go ahead, Hella. I'm sorry.
He did start with a spook, but then I think he ended up he mixed in a spook as well. But
yeah, I mean it was a mixed deal, but that bait's won a lot of money. So yeah, I may sell it, Bob. You need to download Whatnot. I'm going to start doing live tackle auctions on Whatnot probably next week.
Never even heard of Whatnot. What is Whatnot?
So Whatnot is a live auction website. It's basically eBay. You can download an app on your phone. Find it through the App Store. It's WHATNOT. I'll pull it up on my phone if I can remember my passcode. And so, I'll be doing a live stream, and I'll have X amount of products set up. And so, here on There's Fishing, there's people that I think the Guggen squad, Rob Turkle is in there because he's now into sports cards. And I'm sure he knows a lot about sports, if you know what I'm saying. But so basically it'd be like eBay. So I'll list the item. Let's say I put up the Babe there. And I'll say, hey guys, this is the Babe, blah, blah, blah. We're going to start this auction at $10. You get signed up. You bid. You link your card to it. You win. I ship it out. And
so it's like
how it works. So
you
eBay
kind of run a real
Live.
short auction for the hour that you're streaming.
Yes, so I'm not going to sit there and stream for an hour begging people to buy bait. This is, I might have a predetermined list of what I'm going to sell off, and we'll go from there. But yeah,
I can see. I want to see how it goes for you. You can test it out, but I can see what if we down the road we both do this and we both have some baits and we both have some auction. That could be a lot of fun.
Well, I really wanted to talk to you about that off the stream, but I like where you're going with that. Obviously you could have certain themes this is we're trying to soft plastic sell off or old school night or
right.
Whatever.
That'd be cool.
Anyways, let's get back to the hot takes.
Yeah, Clay, we have not gotten to the Bernie beef. We'll call it the burn beef. But based on the voting, actually, before we get to the voting, I want to take care of one thing here.
Ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. We have a wide variety of home loan programs in our tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. You can ask HellaBass. He trusted us to help finance his home.
Look at that
Contact the Dream Team today by searching Supreme Lending Dream Team or click the link below in the description or scan the QR code on your screen.
So, is Drew Cook mad that you were in that commercial and you're not a pro angler?
Yeah, maybe. He might be. Yeah.
Sorry, Drew. I had to.
Well, that we could add that one. That could be a bonus beef. I didn't think of that one. But yeah, so if anybody, obviously, Dream Team Supreme Lending, helping out the show, run by a buddy of mine that is into bass fishing, tournament fishes. And so, if you happen to be looking for a house in the near future, give him a shot. So. But otherwise, yeah, we'll get back to the fishing.
It's funny. My mortgage guy is a huge bass fisherman too. It's crazy how tight those circles are.
Yeah. What do I say? Somebody's like OG Vixenite. I don't know about. Yeah, I mean,
I could find some OG paychecks.
We could do something like I have enough OG Vixens now that I could be like, well, if we hit 300 live viewers, I'll throw an OG Vixen on whatnot, something like that maybe. But we'll see. Yeah, so the next thing that people want to talk about is the Poche thing. So if you haven't seen that, I'll pull up the video here because I think in nothing else, it's pretty good a visual here. This is Poche Day 1 Little Bend tournament. Oh, little added Talladega Nights there. But yeah, that's physical concrete that he jumped. It is a spillway type dam situation. There is some rollers on it, but he was not using the rollers.
Yeah, I don't see nothing.
Just to be clear,
I know what you're talking about.
So this was in the Toledo Bend Open that Ben Milliken won, and Keith Poche finished 29th, 28th, cashed a check. He posted that clip that was done by a bystander because he went up to the dam because he knew he was going to do it.
He said, "Hey,
he wanted to make sure nobody was fishing on it, right?" And he's like, "Hey, just so you know, don't walk across the dam. I'm about to jump it." And the guy, of course, gets his phone out because he's like, "Well, I'm gonna want to watch this, right?" So he records it and he tracks Keith down at the weigh-in after day one, and they do like some kind of airdrop, some kind of gets him the video. And then Keith posted to his social media. And then Bass sees that video, and they determined that was a rules violation. And I think he just lost his day one catch.
Correct.
And that...
Yeah, so all right, this may make some people mad. Hope we don't lose any viewers. And I say this is I have nothing against Keith Poche. Okay? Number one, if you're fixing to do something like this, why would you not call the tournament director and say, "Hey, here's what I got in front of me. According to the map, it's not off limits. If I jump over here, am I DQ'd or not?" Two, if there was rollers, why didn't he use the rollers? So then you got another possible rule violation of irresponsible driving because you got a co-angler with you. If he gets hurt, that's not a good deal. If you use the rollers, you're kind of operating how you're supposed to be. Four, I didn't like how Keith handled it, taking his social media and basically trying to get a mob of people against Bass. Now, could Bass handled it a little bit better? Yes, I think they could have been a little bit more black and white. There is gray area there. However, if you spend your time trying to find gray areas and not fishing, that's a problem. Like, I like Keith, but he's always been in this gray area. He's been DQ'd. This is not the first time. I think he's DQ'd with MLF as well to make this fair. But after a couple days, he kept on, and at the weigh-in, he's like, "Hey, Chase Anderson, come talk to me, blah, blah." And Mercer handled it really professionally, called his weight out, said, "Thanks for fishing with us, blah, blah, blah," and walked off stage. I kind of thought it was a little too much, kind of unprofessional. You owe it to your sponsors, to the fans, no matter your feelings, or we know they're hurt or upset. let's just, sometimes it's just better to take the high road. You know what I mean? And I mean this with all due respect. That is a lot of drama to cause for someone that finished 29th. I saw that it took food off my family's plate, blah, blah, blah. Bro, that check ain't that much for 29th place. And if that spot was a glory hole that you had to get in there, it didn't have them. Probably should have been out fishing where Ben Milliken was because he was hammering them.
Yeah, so I pretty much agree. And I actually like listening to his logic when he did the breakdown on Duncan's show. I think his logic was sound, and I think he had pretty good reasoning why he thought it was a legal move. It was legal waters. And, I mean, I think his logic's good, but it all comes down to, if you're going to do stuff like that, why don't you just call the tournament director, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you constantly live in this gray area and you don't call the tournament director. Things are sometimes going to go your way like they did on the Red River, and sometimes they're not going to go your way on things like this because you're not, So, I mean, that's what it basically comes down to. Whether you agree or not on the ruling, I can see it either way, to be honest.
Right.
But
so we're probably not having this conversation if he calls and they say no. Then he knows 100%, oh, yeah, I'm getting DQ'd. Or they say, yeah, that's fine, and then he does it, and he finishes 29th. All is happy. He's got a really cool video on social media of him jumping. The other thing I saw, and this has been a big hot topic, is, well, the reason he was DQ'd is because Bass hates 10 boats, and they want you to buy a forward-facing sonar. I think that's 100% 10 full conspiracy theorists. Our classic winner just had a freaking walleye boat, Gussie, in a Lund. It's an aluminum boat. Jason Christie won a classic in an Express. Menendez used a 17-foot John boat years ago to win at Dardanelle, going, snuck under a bridge. Let the tournament director know, hey, is this legal? Oh, yeah, it's legal fishing waters. If you can get under there, you're good. So, and all the major sponsors, Skeeter, Ranger, Triton, they all make an aluminum boat. Bass doesn't care if you buy a fiberglass boat or aluminum boat. They just want you to buy their magazine, be a member, and they're not going to say, hey, Rich, you're running a Camus. By the way, we're not going to take your entry fees because they're not a sponsor. Dude, they'll take your entry fees as long as you got the money. I promise you. So I don't agree with all that.
Yeah, so it is legal water. When the water's up, you can get in there. Honestly, if he takes the rollers, maybe he doesn't get he might not have got DQ'd, honestly. There are cricks, there is water, depending on the water levels that you can get in there.
So there's a little spot here on Barkley Lake. It's called, I shouldn't really say this because it is a sneak hole, but when the water's up, there's a little bay called Honker's Bay. And it's public access, but you can only get into it when the water is about 3 to 4 foot over summer pool. So it doesn't get fished by bass boats very often. Now, during a tournament several years ago, the water was 6 foot high. We were able to float across the dam in there and catch 20 pounds. It was unreal. Probably the best chatterbaiting I've ever seen in my life. But that water started going down a little bit during the day. We had to get out of there. But that was legal water. We actually asked the tournament director the morning of and said, hey, this is where we plan to fish. Is this legal? And he said, if you can get in there without having to get out of your boat, it's legal. Fair enough. But, if we'd had to jump across it, I'm pretty sure there's it's in the LBL, actually. In the fishing hand guide or whatnot, LBL, it says that you can access Honker's Lake by boat only if you can get a float across that dam. So, anyway.
Let's see here. A couple follow-ups here. Tom's out on the water. Hope you're catching him, Tom.
What's up, Tom? Tom, I gotta get your bait out to you. Get that done.
I would imagine his DQ would have lost, or his. I would imagine that, yeah. When you get DQ'd as a boater, you typically DQ your co. I think for these types of things.
Yeah, so that sucks. I mean, what's that co-angler going to do? I mean, you could say no. You could say, I'm not going to sign your weigh-in slip if you do that. I mean, but that's kind of a turd move. I mean, unfortunately, you're at the mercy of the boater there.
Because even if, because if the code didn't report him, that also could potentially make the queue the code get DQ'd. There's a danger thing too here. I don't know. You could argue that safety, it's definitely a real thing. I mean,
that's kind of what I thought. What if my son is in there with him,
right?
Or my dad? Unfortunately, my dad passed, but you know what I'm saying. And he doesn't hit it at the perfect angle. That thing's concrete. It gets thrown out. Somebody's paralyzed or killed.
Right. I do think Poche, to some degree, dabbles in these gray areas and doesn't call the tournament director for some of this spotlight. That's speculation, but it kind of feels that way at times.
You want to hear my conspiracy theory? I think it's awful funny that all this come out weeks after a tournament where all the publicity went to Ben Milliken, who is mostly known as a YouTuber who won an Open. And I do know for a fact there was a lot of pros that were very unsettled by all the exposure bass and media was giving Ben and not other guys. I mean, I do think they did a really good job talking about like Trey McKinney and other guys that did really good in that Open. But there's some OGs and other guys that were kind of upset, like, if this guy didn't have 1 million YouTube followers, no one would care. Bass wouldn't be doing this. That they're trying to get the wrong demographic involved, and maybe it was a ploy to take away from people shining light on Ben. Like, hey, look what I did. Let's get some people really stirred up. If you want to talk conspiracy theories, here we go.
Yeah, we're not talking about Keith if he doesn't. If he calls the tournament director, we're not talking about him, regardless of what they said.
Correct. Again, you heard Drew Cook. We got a guy that's not a pro listed as a pro in an Orkin commercial, and I like Drew Cook. I think he's a hell of a fisherman, and from everything I've been told, he's a good guy. But if I go ask Joe Blow down the street, have you ever heard of Joe? 21-year-old kid. Have you ever heard of Drew Cook? Who? You ever heard of Ben Milliken? Oh yeah, I watch his stuff all the time. It's just how it is right now.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I like Poche. I like what he's. I mean, I don't know. I guess I like what Poche's doing, and I like his style, and I appreciate that. But he does a lot of dumb stuff, which makes some of that unlikable. And yeah, he's bringing it on himself for sure.
Yeah, so I like that approach. The 10 rig and the gator tracks and fishing on the edge, and he definitely fishes strength. So Keith Poche is not going to go out idle a bunch of ledges on the Tennessee River. He's going to go find hole in the wall, get backs in the creeks, docks, and fish his strength. And I love that, and he's not shy about it. But sometimes that can work to your disadvantage.
Yeah. Ben Milliken 100% moves more product than Drew Cook.
Ben Milliken moves a lot of product.
Maybe if Drew Cook wins a classic on a readily available date, then maybe he's got a chance. But until then, it's Ben Milliken.
Drew did sell a lot of fighting frogs when
he
won.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not saying Drew doesn't move anything, but Ben sells more product than Drew Cook. And I like Drew Cook.
Yeah.
The Swindle comments. I think Swindle's comments were pretty...
I thought it was fair and balanced.
Yeah. And I know...
the dude's been DQ'd. If anybody's going to know the rule book, it should be somebody that's been DQ'd before.
I know Ed mentioned that, guys have been jumping stuff for years, but the rules have also changed. The rule book isn't the same that it was in the 90s. So
correct.
I haven't read... G-Man held up the rule book in his Facebook video. I've never read that rule book, so I guess...
I have not, but I know a guy who's got a couple copies I could just skim through real quick. But in that... there's nothing wrong with that comment. People have been doing that for a long time, but rules have changed. Boats are faster now. They're built different. Bass boats now really aren't built to take that kind of beating, rules have changed subtly.
if you don't want to be called an F-er, you can join the Visor Gang. You're more than welcome to join the Visor Gang.
I'm a channel member, bro. Do I get a free sticker?
You can. Oh. Anybody that hasn't sent me an email at contact@RichLinger that's a member that still wants their sticker, they can just
maybe next time you travel through my area, I won't stand you up on a fishing trip. I'll just get one in person.
There's that.
That was a long time ago. I'm sure you'll be going my way. I saw a comment on here that I wanted to address. Edwin says there's no rule against it. While true, I saw a lot of people say this. Well, you gotta have to disqualify people every time their boat gets out of the water. What about the locks? Or what about, so you're not allowed to fish in the lock. And if you can't tell the difference between hitting a wave and your lower unit coming out of the water and jumping a levee, a concrete levee, I don't know what to tell you, because that's two totally different situations. The reason locks aren't, considered off limits is the same reason when you idle out in the morning in the marina, that water's off limits, because you're using that as a travel way. It's been designated by the tournament director as an off limits area. However, your boat, you have to travel through it. Now, you can lock to some water that's off limits, but the lock itself is not off limits. You never see anybody fishing in there either. Now, there have been tournaments of guys. I remember Scott Canterbury at Okeechobee almost won a derby by fishing outside of a lock, but that water was legal. Inside was not.
Brian, it's probably sitting in your mailbox because you're not at home.
No, if it was dirt, it would still not be okay, because he physically used his boat to leave the water, the tournament waters. And I don't mean getting airborne in tournament waters. I mean, he physically left across dry land into another body of water.
Yeah, I mean, blowing mud and sandbars, and I don't, like I said, I think some of Keith's logic is actually pretty sound, because, like, to what you're just saying, when you go through a lock, you're leaving tournament waters, technically. And so, like, if he uses the rollers, is it okay? I don't know. I'm not necessarily, but, like, anytime I'm doing something this great, I call the tournament director. I don't necessarily 100% agree with Bass's ruling, but I do think it's defensible. So again, it goes back to just you call the tournament director,
just a phone
right?
call,
like,
man.
I don't know.
Just a phone call.
So
there's been many times in life if I could have made a phone call,
it
might have changed things. Tim Maynard, Gator Tracks are badass. One of my buddies at work, he's got one. He duck hunts out there, sweet. And you're right, Poche really had maybe one of the few rigs that could have done that in the tournament. So.
And not completely jacked. I mean, just about all of them could have done it. Just a matter whether they would have been their boat would have been totaled when they were done or not.
Yeah. Poche is the kind of guy that it would not surprise me if, like, next year he's got a airboat with a 502 crate motor in there and just says, you know what, I'll go as shallow as I want to, and just out of spite.
But this was intentionally going over dry land to access water.
Correct.
When Ike did it, and when I want to say Brian Schmidt did it also.
Ray Hanselman last year.
Right, no, it was Hanselman. That's who it was. It was not intentional. That was an accident. That they weren't trying to gain an advantage. So that's different.
Yeah, I mean, as silly stuff as Ike's done, intentionally screaming, yelling, and I didn't get mad when he threw the light pole that had the flag. I think he's just had a temper tantrum. He wasn't trying to, do it on disgrace the U.S. on purpose. It's just what was close. But there's a big difference between losing control of a boat and going on dry land, or hitting a rogue wave, throwing your. Remember Aaron Brett? What was that, last year before?
It was a couple years ago now. It was still the pro circuit. Yeah, that was.
Rest in peace, FLW tour. He cut between another boat and a point, and that wave, it hooked him. They didn't disqualify him. I think he was even able to fish the next day, maybe borrowed a boat. But, I was obviously, he wasn't trying to jump over the point.
I mean, I've watched that video a lot of times. It did not look like his kill switch was attached. Just saying.
I'm going to agree with you. But,
And I'm to the the opinion that I think we'll touch on this a little bit more. That I think sometimes the DQ is a little overused as punishment. We'll come back to that. So I'm not even like a big like DQ guy. A lot of the times, I think he gets overused.
Just dock him some points and move on.
Or yeah, we can talk about that. But so should we now? Let's maybe touch on the. I think next on the poll here is the Bernie beef. So I found a different way to pull this up. So we're gonna now share a different video. So what you're about to see here is Caleb Kuphall in the Elite Series on Lay Lake. Is in the right here, right? You can see him. He's got his Marshall. And they're pulling in on day 2 on a spot. Set down, getting ready to come up, getting ready to drop his trolling motor in. And that is Bernie Schultz.
Caleb, this is where I caught him yesterday morning. Everything I call is right here.
That's my go-to. You got to throw him up.
I'm not sure exactly how far we think that. What would you say that distance is with a GoPro camera?
Yeah, so GoPros make things look farther than they are, too.
I feel like he's probably
25, 30 yards.
That's about what I was about to say, 25 yards.
I think Caleb probably could have winged a spinnerbait. Not a crank.
I mean, I think like a little roll-handed cast to the back of his boat, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I like Bernie.
And so, and if you, I don't know if you could hear, but what Bernie said is, Caleb, this is where I caught all my fish yesterday, and then just cut him off.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
And not only does like wake washes him, sets down right on top. I mean, like when he sat down, I bet you he was like pretty darn close to the right side where you can't see in the field of view. Like
I think he did one of those moves where you set it down, you kill the motor, and you know the boat's just going to keep on propelling out there.
Yeah.
I've done that, you know. Obviously not on top of somebody like that, but so I like Bernie for his knowledge of old baits. He's a bait connoisseur. He's got all kinds of antique baits. That's not cool. I know it's you know, hey, I got the early boat number, I'm showing up here first, all that. I think that could have been handled way different and probably could have been a cool video of like, hey, you know, this is Bernie, he caught him here, blah, blah, and, you know, he approached me like a gentleman, and we decided figure out how we can both share this water, and we both caught him. It was a good day. Instead, we got this video, and Caleb handled himself pretty professionally, really. He really didn't say a whole lot. He just, you know, whatever, but, man, so I would not be happy if somebody did that to me.
So Caleb left, didn't even fish. Caleb initially posted this video to, I think, his Facebook, and then took it down one day later, and then kind of just put up an explanation video of how he was frustrated and basically said, you know, this is not how I want to be treated. This is not how I will treat other people. Basically kind of gave him the guilty dad talk to Bernie via follow-up video and took it down and basically took the high road. He took both the high road on the water and afterwards for the most part.
Mm-hmm. And dude, I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to take the high road a lot of times, especially when you're in the right. So,
I think Kuphall got hosed here, and I think somebody asked here, did anything happen to Bernie? No, because Caleb didn't raise a stink. He didn't protest, which I think, I don't know what would have happened if he did. This is definitely only sportsmanship would be the rule that it would come under.
Right.
Now, and I think, so Kuphall didn't fish this on day one because he had a terrible boat draw, and he saw there was a boat here, which was probably Bernie when he drove by. And he comes here to start day 2, and then Bernie comes in and cuts him off. Now, I think they both could have fished here. I definitely don't think Caleb is in wrong anyway for trying to start here.
No.
I think if Bernie comes in a little less hot, pulls up next to Caleb, right, and be like, hey, this is where I caught him yesterday. I want to fish in here. Can we work together? Can we divide this up? Do you want like up to this point? I'll take from this point to this point. You want to go in first? I'll follow you. Like, but to like just come in and cut somebody off and then just be like, I caught him here yesterday, and then that's just not cool.
Someone once told me you kill way more bees with honey than you do vinegar.
I think you get more bees with honey than vinegar, not kill. But
yeah, something like that.
Right. Just the way Bernie looks really bad here, and I'm not sure if he would have got penalties.
Bernie
but this
several
is just,
times. He's a nice guy. He does. Someone say no wonder he always looks pissed off. I mean, he looked pissed off the first time I met him, but that's just, women say they have RBF, resting bitch face. He's got resting Bernie face. So.
Yeah. So.
I agree with Gary. Gentlemen would have idled up, asked to fish that spot. Bernie didn't get the minnow. I mean, TK Bernie wears it's like a ping golf visor. It's not even. It's almost like a lady's visor.
Nick, that was a weird interaction we had on Big Vermilion on Monday with your trolling motor driver. Not all people. It's the people that buy visors that do this, not the people that make their own visors.
I'm retired visor gang. I bet you can find some visor pics of me on Facebook and some past photo albums where I've got the skeet Reese, kind of slicked it back, spiked the front of it, make it look nice. I ain't got no damn hair anymore.
Maybe you'll be in a future TikTok, Nick. So Nick was fishing with a guy in this tournament, and they were coming around this island. I was fishing with Brian, who's in the chat here, and he was coming around one island, and we kind of came up, like they were fishing the bank, so I came up like between the islands to fish some boulders out in front and kind of went to the right. And all of a sudden his boater, as I'm literally hooking up on a 3-pounder's jerkbait, his boater turns his trolling motor and goes between me and the bank right over where I just caught that fish. It was really awkward. And I don't blame you, Nick, but it was really a weird situation. And then I caught another 3-pounder right after you went by. So, but to the visor question, it's all right, Nick. The visor gang is a state of mind. You don't necessarily have to have follicles, and you don't have to wear a visor. It's more of it's a community. It's like being an MF or a what do we call the bait? Do we have a bait
channel
bait
members?
Squad or the masturbators? What do we call bait man?
I think we're all masturbators that's been in here. I know your clan, Rich. They all buy a lot of tackle. I don't know. I just bait squad, bait gang, whatever, jank gang. Just a bunch of junkyard dogs is what it is.
Nice. Got over 200 between the two channels tonight, rocking and rolling tonight.
Good job, guys. We got a lot going on. I think like Alabama Bass Council's live on TikTok. I love watching Slick Johnson. I'm like addicted to watching him. And Stray Cats is live, and something else was going on. So I'm glad you guys appreciate watching old redneck and a Yankee like Rich talk about hot takes. And I say that with all due respect, Rich.
No problem.
Well, appreciate it, Michael. I wish I could trademark it.
So there was one more thing that we had. Well, I guess we had. We kind of touched on the Drew thing, but the other thing was the I don't know how many people caught this, but so boy Duckett coming into owner, operator, president of the Bass Pro Tour got a 10-minute penalty on Gunnersville because he was crappie fishing. I don't know. During the off limits on Gunnersville.
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my whole life. With no disrespect to Boyd, but yeah. I mean, here's the thing. You can be crappie fishing and you can be bass fishing at the same time. You just might have crappie baits tied on. I mean,
that's the thing is like, has anybody ever caught crappie where bass weren't nearby?
Yeah, someone said, crappie don't live where bass live. That's bullshit. I've caught many, many bass out of a brush pile that's holding crappie. for KGB wouldn't sell that many crappie swim baits if bass didn't like to be around crappie. So,
and I think Matt Allen and others have done whole videos on how they target crappie schools for looking for the biggest bass on the lake.
Yeah, maybe he was testing out a new Chad knockoff. I don't know. But, yeah, so that goes to show you sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, it matters who you are. And, you know, do you think Boyd's going to kick himself out of the BPT if he's dead last? Probably not. I mean, I saw someone ask about Bass kick out the last 3 on the leech. Yeah, I think the bottom 3 in point standings after 3 years. If you've been on 3 years and you're in the bottom, your invite's no good anymore.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's fair. I mean, that's one, you got to keep fresh blood in. Some of those guys could use legends exemptions. You know, obviously Rick Clunn can use a legend exemption. Technically, if you want to get really technical about it, Boyd Duckett could use a legend exemption to fish bass because he won the Classic.
I don't think it would be accepted, but
no.
But back to this, yeah. The whole Bassmaster thing and their points is still a little muddy on how they calculate. It's very complicated. I wish they would publish like a running list and so it was more clarity. But anyways, but this so I guess whether it was on his dock, I guess if he was only fishing on his dock, I could maybe see it, but I still don't think 10 minutes is like nearly severe enough. I don't know that he should automatically be DQ'd, but like if you're fishing, whether it's on a dock or a boat or you're crappie fishing, if you're on the water, you're seeing birds, you're seeing bait, you're seeing activity, you're seeing if the crappie are coming. I mean, like it's giving you info to get your mind turning. So like there's that, even if you're booze cruising to a dinner spot on a pontoon, you're seeing things on the lake that you cannot unsee that are judging how you're going to approach the lake.
Right.
Period.
Now, if they would have got an hour penalty, that's kind of stiff in MLF. An hour penalty, yeah, I probably wouldn't say too much, but 10
because I guess up until this year, what I heard is they actually had a rule where you could be on the lake as long as you weren't fishing, and they just changed it this year. So supposedly he forgot that they changed that, but I don't know how the owner, operator, president forgets that. But I guess, I mean, so there is a little more to the story, maybe that, but still, it's hard to say that if this was, I don't know, Tommy Biffle or, I don't know, Adrian Avina or, I don't know, some other.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some random MLF dudes. I don't want you to. It wouldn't happen to Jake and Wheeler.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like if it wasn't one of the owners or somebody that's, you know, does, I don't know, Bertrand. Guy does pretty well, not a huge name. Like, does he get more than a 10-minute penalty? I feel like he would. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. He says he should lead by example. You know, he should just, hey, I made a mistake, man. But I get it.
I mean, I guess I don't think automatic DQ is necessary, but I don't think 10 minutes is nearly enough. But I do think this sets a weird precedence now that if somebody wants to go out there and drive around and say they were fishing for crappies, now are they going to like push the envelope based on that's the problem? The precedence it says for 10 minutes.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, you know, these lakes that fish small. Hey, I'm in 44th place. I got to make that cut line, but hey, I got 10 minutes to be a hoe buzzard. I'll go run up and down the lake real quick. Beep, 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 come back. All right, let's go fishing. You could do that.
I agree with a couple people saying this. Like, I think I don't know how he can himself accept that as the penalty and be like, no, you need to punish me harder just so that our league doesn't look like a joke.
I mean, that would be the right thing to do. Like, hey, fudge, guys, shouldn't have been doing that. I want to self-impose a 1 hour penalty. And I think people would be like, hey, yeah, you screwed up. You should have known better. But, you know, it's kind of like how I feel about the NCAA when they like to put the hammer on schools like Tennessee. But, hey, we already self-imposed penalties and did all this and that. We knew we messed up. We made a big mistake.
But, like, and this, I was kind of touched on this before. Like, I feel like what's his name? The guy from Louisiana that went out on Hartwell inadvertently. Like, what's his name? I can see his face. He turned himself in because he went out and he got like he went out like right before the off limits, or he thought it was the last day before the cutoff, and after being out there for a few hours, he's like, I am not seeing any other bass boats or any other wraps. And it caused him to double check, and then he realized he was out on the water basically, 3 hours after the and he got DQ'd for the entire tournament. Which, to me, logically, if you're out for a half day during the off limits, at the it's not, we're not talking about before the week of the tournament. We're talking 30 days prior. Like, it was Derek Hudnall. That's who it was.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just put him in timeout for practice and dock him 4 hours of practice during the official practice? Wouldn't that have been a way more just penalty than a DQ, which wipes out his chances at a classic? It wipes out his chances to cash a check. Like, what did he gain inadvertently fishing for 3 or 4 hours 30 days ago? That 4 hours during official practice is so much more valuable. That seems like such more reasonable than just an automatic DQ for an entire event, or make him lose 1 full day of his 2.5 days of practice. Like, like nobody's going to intentionally take that trade.
Yeah, let's not ruin a guy's season over something.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
you could. I mean, we could actually ruin his season, potentially his. I mean, like, a lot of these guys, like, it's a fragile ecosystem. Like, ruining a season could ruin your career. Like, you don't make a classic.
Account.
You don't you don't make a $5,000 check, then you don't make the classic. That's $15,000. You don't get re-upped on your deals. Like, it was a complete overreach, I think, and not a just penalty.
I mean, it's just knock off Lucky Craft and bullshit.
Right. I mean, John, I agree, right? It's got to be within the range, but it should be it can't be so severe that it shouldn't be detrimental, but it should be what I said. Would you trade 4 hours 28 days ago for 4 hours of official practice? Nobody would take that, right? But 10 minutes during a BPT event, that is just, that doesn't deter anybody from doing anything. So that's the problem.
I agree with you. Do you think these organizations are using the DQ like some of the zebras use that? Tee 'em up. Sometimes I feel in college sports so many times that the refs, umpires, zebras, sometimes they're trying to be bigger than the game. You get to that critical moment. Oh, let's throw a flag, or you're out of here. Man, come on. Just let them play.
I mean, I think it'd be more interesting, use the penalty box more. Have people sit for 30-hour, right? And then put the live camera on them and have them talk about it, right? Okay, now you're just going to, and I think that'd be more interesting for live, for the fans. I don't know.
I see a lot of talk about Toby Keith buying Lucky Strike.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's a sign that he's healthy and getting on the mend, right? Because wasn't he fighting stomach cancer or something like that?
Yeah. Toby Keith, old school country singer. Hard for me to say old school. I mean, I'm 37, but it seems like in middle school he was banging.
Love me some Toby Keith.
So I love Lucky Strike. One of my favorite worms, the worm, the original ringer, Lucky Strike. That's my favorite ledge fishing worm of all time. And they're hard to get because they just don't make many anymore. They make a lot of the smaller ones, but that 9.5 inch one they don't make. And that's why I stocked up on them. The Baby Huey worm. Then you had the Rick Klein RC 1525 Lucky Strike fiasco. But that's just a company that's flown under the radar. I think where they make their money rich is selling that stuff to Walmart in those pre-rigged packs or little Pro Pack Lucky Strike Carolina kit.
Which I think, it's no different than, bringing those eyeballs and having some of that money. That's there's no downside to Toby Keith buying into a fishing tackle company. For
how
the rest
many
of
his country music fans are going to be like, "Oh hell, Toby, that's awesome! I'll go buy some." A bunch of them. Love him or hate him, a Luke Bryan signature bomber crankbait, sell the hell out of them.
Yeah, and if somebody gets into fishing because of it, then they can watch the Baitman stream and everybody wins.
Yeah, I think it's cool. When's the last time someone really outside of fishing bought and invested in a company? Bo Jackson, everyone knows Bo. He is an investor, part owner of this Asian carp processing plant down the street from me. I think that's cool. A guy like Bo Jackson putting his money into something like that. Maybe it's not baits or tackle, but it's obviously something that's trying to help better our lake ecosystem and also provide food for your dog.
James says he caught a big one on your Colorado spinnerbait at Chick.
That's nice. I like the Colorado spinnerbait, dude. I love spinnerbait.
Is that one of your?
Here's a hot take. I think spinnerbaits are back. Have you noticed that the chatterbait has really died down the last year or so? You start to see. I'm not saying it doesn't catch fish. What I'm saying is I'm seeing more anglers talk spinnerbaits, throw spinnerbaits. And what's crazy is actually you see a chatterbait really good on forward-facing sonar, but you can see a spinnerbait really well. I think chatterbait's definitely a numbers deal, but I feel like that spinnerbait gets a bigger bite.
Bob agrees. For whatever reason, I don't throw spinnerbaits up north. I only throw them when I go down south. It's in my head. It's like a mental thing.
So speaking of Swindle and chatterbaits, it's the first time I ever seen a chatterbait. Gerald Swindle showed it to me. So I went fishing before work. I was young, maybe 19. Terry Bolton took me, first time Terry ever took me. And we're idling out at Moore's, and they're having the outdoor channel, Ultimate Match Fishing. And Gerald pulls up. Bolton says, "Hey, Bolton, you ever seen anything like this? This is what they could catch them on. This is some ultra secret stuff." And he pulls it out. And I said, "A jig?" He said, "No, son, this ain't a jig. This is called a chatterbait." He said, "You about to get a lot of money taken from you." I was like, "Okay." He throws it out there. He said, "Look at that rod tip." And it was just, I'm like, interesting. And Bolton looked at me. He was like, "You can't believe a word that guy says." If only I would have bought about 200 right then.
Yeah. There's a lot of people with stories like that. Like, I think Pete Glusick tells a story like that about that, and a few other people like that had them like super early, and they're like, "This thing's stupid." And
ooh, there's a little hot take.
Blake says, "Should the rules for sight fishing, which basically mean you have to hook them in the mouth, be the same as forward-facing sonar?" I don't think so.
No. So
I mean, I get it on a surface level. I can see where you could draw that conclusion, but after having front-facing sonar I got it late last year. Let's say I've got 2 months fishing it now.
Yeah. So how are you going to enforce that? Let's say a guy like Kelly J's throwing a jerkbait. Obviously, he probably uses forward-facing sonar, and he catches one, and it nose bombs it. It's hooked, and then a guy like, let's say, KVD, if they're fishing the same tournament, which it won't be, but KVD is not using forward-facing sonar, and he catches one and it's hooked the same way. Do you DQ both, or do you say, well, since you had forward-facing sonar, you're DQ'd, but KVD, you're okay because you don't, even though the bass is hooked the same way? That's where I would say it's really hard policing that. And
the only thing I can
catch on crankbaits hooked out
that makes me nervous would be that big flutter spoon where they start putting the hooks on the nose and the sides, and it's got like 4 trebles hanging off a flutter spoon. Yeah, maybe then, but that's about the only bait that I could really see where you have a legitimate shot, and you'd still have to be like fishing a ledge school or something where they're really potted up, because you are, even with all those hooks, you are not going to cast at a single fish. And
the way that big spoon works, I've got one hanging around here somewhere, but the way a big Ben Parker Magnum spoon, the OG, the original, the best one in my opinion, even though Zaldane's got a new one out, but Ben is the original spoon man. So when that spoon falls, it does not fall straight down. So if you go look at a fish on your active target or Panty Optics and you try to flip a spoon down, a Magnum spoon, try to snag it, it's going to go. It's like stair steps. They call it a cradle. So it never falls straight down. It falls about 2 foot, and then it'll do the shimmy, and then it jets out. So you can actually throw it just right up by your trolling monitor. You can watch it on your live scope, and you'll see it'll go about 20 to 30 feet out. So if you make a long cast, it actually shoots way out. So it'd be really, really hard to intentionally snag one. Saying that, I have caught several bass and the butthole on top of the head, just with a regular treble hook. But they're all in tight, wadded up schools. And I think what happens is fish get fired up. You rip it off the bottom, and they see it falling. You get 2 or 3 trying to grab it at the same time, and one just gets hung.
You know what the name of that one is? I think it was the one Cody Huff was throwing. The one that has like all the extra trebles on it. Was
it that Jinko spoon?
Is that what it was?
They made one where they like drill out the center and put trebles hanging off it. I mean, I wouldn't want that because I think it would kind of hurt the action. And
the other thing is, like, people don't realize, like, when you're looking through the cone or front face, when you're out 20 feet, your circle is like, if you see a dot, it's in a 10-foot diameter. Like,
I think it's incredibly hard to snag a bass with live scope. Like, so I'm obviously at an OHIV when Milliken crushes all those fish and the 6 cents deal. And this is my first
jet. That's what it is.
So I'm seeing fish. I'm reeling my A-rig to them. And obviously you get next to the fish and I'm thinking, well, is he going to bite it? And you think your rig should be snagging on something. It's not. It's, that fish is off 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 feet maybe, because as that beam, it's narrow and then just it widens out. So what you see 30 yards in front of you may be 7, 8 foot to the left or right.
See, this one does make me a little nervous though.
Yeah, I'm not throwing that. That sucker's getting.
And I mean, if you had a pile of fish that were tightly wadded up and you were throwing this and you're catching them out of the mouth,
you'd be Mike Long. That should say the Dixie Jet ML Talon Spoon. Man, they don't bite that big spoon here like they used to, but I think it's because our gizzard shad population went down. It's the funnest bite. Like, they'll absolutely stomp it. You're thinking, man, 3.5 ounce bait, how am I going to feel a bite? Because your rod's kind of bowed, and they just...
I had a couple people comment saying that G-Man just put out a video about how a DT20 is so quiet, and you can snag deep Gunnersville bass with it on ledges.
I saw an Instagram post. I don't think he meant literally snagging. I think he just meant, snag me one out on a ledge, as in caught one.
Poor choice of words, you're saying?
Open to interpretation. You could, if you wanted to interpret it the wrong way, you could, but I didn't think that. If he had sure set hooks on there, he surely isn't snagging a bass. I could tell you that. Junk.
I feel like I need to go watch the video now and hear it for myself.
Yeah, and I agree with this Kenny Mint. He said it's still illegal to intentionally snag bass by any bass tournament rules and probably most state laws. Yeah, I mean, just ask our buddy.
This is what Caleb Kuphall should have had on the deck when Bernie took off. He should have sent one of these Dixie Jet Talon spoons at his head.
Yeah. What was Mr. Snag? Jeff Sprague? Spragued him. And that was not with forward-facing sonar. That was with a floating worm, I do believe.
I need to go watch this because people are saying that there's no misinterpretation. So, all right.
Well, maybe Swindle was just trying to get some likes.
I mean, let's be honest. The video that he did on the Poche response was absolutely clickbait to get views and.
Yeah, I mean, I like Gerald, and he knows he's going to get views and comments and everything. I don't really disagree with him making it. I could have made the same video, but ain't nobody going to watch it.
Yeah, I agree that in every fish count tournaments, betting smallmouth is an issue. 100%.
Yeah, I saw some Jack Leg made a big post on Instagram here. I'm not going to mention his name. See if I can find it. And he had an issue with the angler supposedly cutting him off, and I commented and it got deleted. I think you know what I'm talking about, Rich. But I've also come to this conclusion. There's a lot of people that are not wearing their 5x3 anymore. I see a lot of excuses, and I do feel like because of social media, it's really easy to go out and blame somebody else for not being able to catch a fish, whether it's they're fishing too close or they cut me off or this or that. Bro, sometimes you just got to suck less. You just got to catch fish. Does not matter. Speaking of 5x3, what happened to that company?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember all the story. But that guy was a piece of work from what it sounds like.
Dude, anybody see that dragonfly behind me? Oh,
Slap him in a mold, make a bait out of him.
It's a mayfly.
Mayfly?
Oh.
Means the buzzbait bites. Darius, the buzzbait bite's about to go off on Kentucky.
Yeah, our mayflies that me and Darius went out, it was like July before they were out. Almost August. That means night fishing is about to be hot. All right, any other hot takes? Anything else we can talk about? Oh, here's a hot take. I got to get my sponsor plug. 6-cent sack. So if you got this month, one, you got a Jaint Juice Square Bill, which is awesome. But
let me see that Jaint. Show me the Jaint Juice again. I want to.
Never shows up good on camera. Look at that. Yeah. They threw one in the sack. But how about this? What is your take on red frogs?
I like that natural brown one that's bro.
Yeah.
Like I've done really well on that one.
So this one's kind of brown. It's got a red back.
What's the bottom?
It's got that natural bottom, that whitish brown.
That's a yellow frog. That's not a brown. That's a yellow frog.
It's kind of brown. It's just a bad camera. So my favorite color, jackal frog, I love the gavacho, is the red one. I've caught so many fish on the red gavacho. Yeah,
actually, because it's not that warm here, I actually got my frog box here. So yeah, like this is I do like this one.
Yeah, so that's the guy that told me about a red frog. He was throwing that Spro, which is truly not a red. So
we call it a natural red or natural. Yeah, it's more of a brown.
I know people think bottom is all that matters. I disagree with that. I do truly think there's a time and place that those fish want the sides flashing a little bit, especially if it's a walking frog. But there's something about that red when they're spawning here, they will eat it. Like
I've never thrown the gavacho.
God, the gavacho's badass. Like it is my favorite frog. They're just hard, but you know what's going to happen. Jackal is going to discontinue it. But yeah, so
it can't be good if they haven't discontinued it yet.
That's true. They discontinue everything good. John says, depending on the frog and sides, make a difference. I'll agree with that. If you get a really heavy walking frog like a Slither K, but they don't really make a lot of crazy colors, I think it does matter. A mat frog, I don't think if you're fishing mats, the bottom's all that matters. It may not even matter at all.
Have you heard of the toad thumper?
I got one. You want to see one?
I was listening to something.
Where did I put that something?
I must have been listening in audio only form because they were talking about it. Was it TK? TK, you were talking about the toad thumper. That's what it was. I didn't have your channel pulled up. I was only listening.
You know my frog box would be at the very freaking bottom of all this. Good thing I'm forklift certified, or I might not could have pulled that off. I think I got one. Rich's frog box has probably seen a lot more action than mine, I can tell you that. I had one in here. I probably got it in one of these tackle warehouse.
Well, somebody says they don't like the hookup ratio with the gavacho.
So I like the hookup ratio. For some reason, they choke it here. That's why I like it. But I'm fishing in open water. Like, one of my favorite places to throw a frog this time of year is off the side of a boat ramp. For some reason, like, if there's a bass bed nearby on a boat ramp, they eat that frog. I've got a toad thumper somewhere. You can check out one of my tackle.
No toad thumpers at Omnia. You'll have to use Bateman's link to Tackle Warehouse.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find it real quick. It's a pretty cool frog. It collapses really well.
So I heard TK say that he thought the hole was too small and that the air pressure, like when he squeezed it.
So they got two.
The problem is their black is too black, TK. They need more like marks on their black frog, right, TK?
Yeah. So the guy that owns front man of Whiskey Myers. There's your link there in chat. That's his company, Toe Thumper, Cody. So I wish the True Tungsten Frog was still available. That might be a whatnot. I know you got them. Yeah, I got an NF60. That's a sleeper frog. Yep. Oh, blue.
Those are one of my favorite colors too, right there.
Yeah, the gray.
And this
I'm
one,
not
actually,
sure.
this one quite a bit too.
Yeah, I got a solid white one. I got it from Clark Rain.
These ones? Were they white or were they the white with these like red on them? Was it this white or is it not?
It's that one right there, exact one. Right here.
Well, they had some long skirts on them. These ones
Yeah,
have not
they
been
did.
trimmed.
You did. Yep, that's it. You can tell the difference between Rich's webcam and mine too. His colors. He's got better lighting. This is a OSP diving frog. I think it's actually called a Kubota frog.
Oh.
I've thrown it a bunch and then they eat it. I've got teeth marks all over the son of a gun.
We only bring 2 tungsten frogs out for big derbies now.
Yeah, they don't hold up real well, unfortunately. I mean, I've got a purple spro frog that somebody actually custom painted this.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got the OGs in there. A little baby blue. My buddy Bray Anderson sent that to me.
Yeah, it's a waste of silicone. We trim them down. I just haven't fished any of those. I have not seen the new Teckle Sharker.
So it's kind of like the OSP diving frog. Like, you twitch it and it just sits there like a couple inches below the water and then it can bob up. Pretty kind of cool. I'm not sure the hookup ratio on that would be greatest. Yeah, dude, Reaction Invasion Swamp Donkey. It's a good frog. It's a really good mat fishing frog. There is differences between a mat frog and an open water frog. Yeah.
I like that color. I threw that brown one until the weight was
that one
gone.
too.
But it's got I got my own custom skirt in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I had to redo the legs.
Yeah, NF60 from Norris is a really good frog. It walks like a dream. I just wish... So I only got a window of about a month or 2 months where a frog can be a major player here. But, so I've seen this on Facebook. Some dude was fishing around Blood River and caught a bunch of damn coontail with a crankbait.
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, like I said, 3 or 4 years, Kentucky Lake. If that grass stays, top of the chain.
Put it back. Don't stop ripping it up.
Yeah.
Fence that area
Leave
off.
that area
Let it get rooted up.
alone. Red Jackal Care Frog's really good. I love Adept's Buster K. I did a stream before all my frogs. I haven't bought any. I'm not a guy that fishes a frog a lot, but I'm addicted to buying them. When I find one that's cool, I buy them. Blake, did Fred Urbanus copyright the carpet on the back of the frog? That's an old school deal. So a lot of the old school frogs had stuff like that on there.
And the culprit worms had it.
Yep. Culprit had a worm as a sticky worm or something like that.
I don't know. I might have took those out of my tournament box. I think I might have moved those to my backup box, my Stanford frogs, because I am not a huge fan of the Stanford frog. What's your take on it?
Not a big fan. It's
okay.
The colors are cool. I like the colors, the design.
The hookup is just not where it needs to be, in my opinion.
I think what makes a frog really good for hookups is the hook and the angle.
To me,
they all compress pretty good, but you got to have the right hook. I like the Gavacho hook, and I'll be honest, for the money, it is really dang hard to beat a Spro frog.
Pad Crasher, even.
Yep, Pad Crasher.
I'll take a Pad Crasher over a Stanford Boom Boom frog all day.
Yeah, so the Pad Crasher is You know, it doesn't have like this heavy duty tuna hook. It's almost a light wire frog hook.
Yeah, I just, for something that should be the boom boom signature frog, for a guy that's won an Elite Series on a frog, that frog should be dynamite out of the package, and it's not.
Bobby's Perfect Frog from Snag Proof is probably one of the best that no one talks about.
I mean, I don't think the Stanford frog cracks the top 10 for me. Like I said,
No.
I took them out of my tournament box. They're in my pre-fishing box, so I don't care if pike eat them.
Right.
So AJ says, don't throw the big boy live target frog. And I actually was a big fan of the Evolved Nervous Walker, which is actually pretty similar to the big
Yep.
live target.
So
And this is one of the softest frogs with one of the biggest sets of hooks in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scum Frog makes good frogs. Like, I got a whole box full of St. Junior over here. They got good hooks in them. You know, you can throw them.
I have not tried the launch frog.
A lot of guys like that Terminator walking frog.
I've got some of those.
I've had a big blow up on one. I mean, I throw the 6 Sense Vega frog quite a bit, but I had some hookup issues on it one time, but it was mostly me. I have to trim the legs a little bit more, but I've caught them on it. Again, the one I catch the most on is a brown red one and a black one. I think frogs are one of those things, like you're going to get 500 opinions on what's the best. You know, everyone says you'll have your Scum Frog guys, your Spro guys, your whatever brand little guys, but I think a lot depends on the fishing in an area. You know, if fish are really aggressive, sometimes I don't think it matters what frog you got. They just want to eat it. If they're kind of just going up there to check out the buffet, not really want to eat it a whole lot, I think that's when it matters. That hook makes a big difference.
And I think it matters to a degree, like where you fish, the cover you fish, the forage, your rod and reel setup, your mechanics for setting the hook. Just like some people think snelling a flipping hook's amazing. Other people flip, straight shank hooks with or ring hooks or whatever. Like, if it works for you, doesn't matter what I say the best frog is, right? That's there's nobody fishes the same. Nobody has the same hook set. Nobody has the same equipment. So like, there is no single, right? Just like what you may think Nikes are comfortable, I may say Adidas are comfortable. Our feet are not the same, right? Like, it's just.
No. Yeah, I think that's kind of sometimes where I have a gripe with YouTube and social media. You know, guys ask really loaded questions, especially like on the swim bait groups and even the 6 Sense page. You know, what's the best 6 Sense bait? Well, man, it just depends on what style you like. You know, my favorite bait is the flat side F4. Darius, his might be, the splashback popper, and we could both make arguments for it, but it really comes down to style and how you fish. Do straight shank hooks offer a better hookup ratio? Yes, in theory, the way they're designed. You're always at a hooking angle, but there are times when, look, my dad used the EWG for so many years, and I really don't remember him losing that many fish on there. It's kind of like treble hooks. Do you want an EWG or do you want a, round bend? There's a time and place for both. If you're a guy that you don't have real sensitive equipment and can't feel the bite real well, I would recommend round bends. I feel like you hook more fish. But,
Tacklecraft says he doesn't like super sticky hooks because he feels like if he's rubbing that square bill down logs and trees, he just hooks more wood.
Yeah.
So he'll just power up his rod and line, and as long as they're reasonably sharp without being super sticky, he'll just jam them home. So,
yeah. I mean, there's pros, cons, trade-offs to everything. But guys like me and you, what we try to do is when someone goes, well, I just bought a spinnerbait, how do I Carolina rig that? We go, whoa, that's really not how you fish a spinnerbait. Now, there's many different brands out there, but we're not going to be Carolina rigging them today. But you go to a tackle store on a weekend, and you'll notice, obviously I worked with one for a long time, that not everybody watches YouTube. Not everybody reads Bassmaster. There's guys that just want to go out there and have fun and catch fish, but they're frustrated because they really don't understand that you don't put a bobber on top of a crankbait, small things.
Yeah. I don't. I'm very careful. I never. You rarely ever hear me say this is the best.
Yeah.
This is.
I
I
might
typically
say
say my
the best
favorite
I've
for the way
used.
I fish, where I fish, how I like to do it. This is what works best for me. Like I'm very particular in my words. I don't like to speak in absolutes, and I like to speak from personal experience. So,
Yeah, I always try to me personally. Like when I said the Lucky Strike ringworm is the best worm ever weighed, that's for me. Obviously sentimental. I've caught tons and tons of fish. Power worm, excellent freaking worm. Millions of bass been caught on it. A net bait T-Mac, a Zoom old monster. You can get arguments everywhere. But,
10-inch power worm.
Yep. But they used to glue the tails. The old school power worm tails were glued onto the bait. Pretty wild. All right.
I have not tried the haymakers. Have you got your hands on any? I haven't ever seen anybody in stock to buy. I haven't looked that hard, but
no, I like that owner Jungle EWG. It's a really good tube hook. I used to flip that straight shank jungle hook. Now I'm on this G finesse kick, so I bought these right here for a certain bait. These are expensive, but I got them on sale at Academy for like $3 a pack.
well, as you're getting older, you need that coating so you can get the hook in.
Yeah, I'll be 38 this year. I'm an old man, but these right here, these G finesse heavy cover worm hook, I use it on that 6-inch crew because it's a really small bait. And believe it or not, I don't actually flip that bait a lot. I'm actually casting it quite a bit, but that it's kind of half tube, and it's hard to find the right hook. But man, this thing's really nice, and I've started using the 3 and 4 ones more on my creature baits. But that's my favorite flipping style hook right now. That one right there.
I actually finally got my hands and saw the crew in person at Schultz not that long ago. I didn't buy any, but I was looking at them. I was trying to figure out if I could stupid rig them, and I didn't think I could. So.
No, you can't do that. You can put a lead head in it, but I just throw a 1/4 ounce tungsten weight on there, peg it, 12, 14 pound line, and I'm just casting it. And for some reason, that little profile, I think the way it kind of falls, it has just enough glide.
Dustin's off work. We're just starting now, folks.
Uh-oh. What's up, Dustin? Dude, you talk about a dude with a beautiful freaking boat, man. I love his Phoenix. That purple.
I think you comment because my neighbor actually has one pretty similar. My neighbor's Phoenix has got that purple in it.
Oh, here. What about bass boat prices? We might as well do.
They're practically giving them away. I don't know why everybody doesn't have one.
Yeah, $90K a pop. I mean,
but it's honestly boats have gone up, but it's the standard rigging is though it's gotten out of hand. Right. Honestly, more than anything.
So if you buy a Bear, let's just say Camus, if you just bought the boat, no electronics, just a standard trolling motor, I think you can get in a brand new CX21 for what, $70K? Maybe
probably
less.
In the ballpark.
Maybe less. If you got a dealer,
it literally be motor, starting battery, maybe a trolling motor, maybe not. Yeah, no graphs.
So when I bought my ZX,
I
bought my ZX 225 in 2005. Or no, 2006 is brand new showroom floor. I think it was $43,000. That's what I paid for it. That boat right now is $65K.
So this is 6 years different, Dustin. But your standard, did you equip it the same? Did you order it with graphs? Because in 2016, you probably rocked it out with Gen 1 HDS 8s, and now you're probably rocked it out with HDS Live 12s, and you went from 2 graphs to 4 graphs, and you went from, did you have poles on it in 2016? Now you got blade. I don't know. I mean, it's just a lot of this is really the accessories and the way we're loading them out is driving the. I mean, yes, boats have gone up. The outboards have gone up quite a bit, but it's not just the boat manufacturers. It's the way we're rigging boats have driven it up more than people realize. Is what I'm saying.
You had 2 graphs up front, your mapping, sonar, then your live scope graph, then your scope, then you.
I mean, just 2 graphs used to be the norm. Now 4 is the norm.
Yeah, I'm 280 HD. I have noticed a lot more guys are going to one big graph up front.
Well, at the console, I see that more than.
Yeah, one big graph at the console, like a Mega 16 or Lowrance 12 or whatever, and then they got 2 or 3 at the bow. You got a mapping. You got one for 360, then you got one for panning optics, or however you want to do it.
See, I like 2 at the dash for redundancy.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than like run one giant 16-inch screen, if something goes wrong with it, then I have nothing. I'd rather run 2 10-inch screens.
Mm-hmm.
I get basically the same real estate, but then like if something goes wrong, I still can run one if I need to.
You see where Matt Robertson, my boy Matt, he had that video about his HDS 10 went out. He was bummed, but he found another one. It's 2023, and Robertson's prized possession is a Gen 1 HDS 10.
Because he likes the way he's just,
It draws fish so good. Like, if ledge fishing offshore is your deal and you're scanning the island looking at nothing.
Is it the 2D that he likes so much in it, or?
The down imaging.
Okay.
It draws a bass really, really good. Now, that's not to say the new ones don't, but again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And who am I to tell Matt Robertson it's not any good? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I bought some. Have you seen the Core Tackle hover jig? I bought some. I just haven't used them yet. So that's Matt Steffen and Johnny Schultz brainchild.
Mm-hmm. The first time I heard about the hover rig was really a Ben Milliken video.
Yeah, so it is basically taking the hover juggle, right? Instead of you putting basically a jig hook in there and then putting your own nail weight, they've kind of made a all-in-one. It's actually pretty neat looking.
Yeah, so I did this deal with Menendez called D-Style, where you take a 16th ounce.
Whoa! This D-Style. This is kid friendly. What do we say?
No, that's what it's called. It's over in Japan. So he learned this from Toshi from OSP. They call it D-Style, and you take a light wire jig head, 16th. You can even use 32nd. It's almost like hover strolling, but it's actually a jig. And you throw it out schooling fish on spinning gear, and you count it down 1, 2, 3, and you just kind of give it a little Alabama shake around the slack, let it kind of pendulum down. It's just freaking deadly on schoolers. Very similar, I guess, to hover strolling.
So here's the Core Tackle hover rig. So it basically has that, right? You're using that same style hook that Ben's using in his hover juggle, right? Instead of putting a nail weight, it's all molded on the shank, but it's weight forward to give you kind of a similar.
Interesting. Well, luckily, I've got a lot of jig hooks and plenty of nail weights. I know Jason Sealock from Artifish he's all about the hover rig, and he's been catching big browns, so I'm gonna have to give it a try. I wonder if you could make a micro hover rig with some crappie jigs.
Who's locked up? Am I locked up? I don't think I'm locked up. Are you locked up?
I don't know. Dude, we've been on here for an hour 45 minutes, HellaBass. I got to work in the morning.
Don't we all, buddy?
These bass boats ain't going to buy themselves at $70,000 plus. Or a roof. I got to get a freaking new roof.
It's always something. Dude, somebody's always got their hand out.
I wish. My dad told me, you buy a house, you always have something going on. Dad, you neglect to tell me, hey, you might as well chalk up spending an extra $5,000 every 6 months. But
sounds good. Well, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man.
Next week, probably not going to be Wednesday night next week. Looking forward here, probably not going to be next Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm probably
for a time shift.
I'm sorry to tell people I don't exactly know when I stream. It just, I work a lot of overtime. I try to do something on Sunday nights. That's usually free for me. I try not to work over on Tuesday nights in the case I get a wild hair to fish a Tuesday night tournament. But, we'll do what we can. HellaBass, I think we got to do. I like this idea of maybe a monthly recap of, I don't want to say drama, but fishing news.
Just like industry news recap, what happened.
Stuff that's been popular. We talk about it, put our opinion, our own spin on it. Do about once a month, maybe fantasy fishing winners and losers. Guys.
Well, here's some interesting stuff. So Omnia got in some Spro Chad Shads today.
Yeah.
And they sold out faster than the notifications could go out to the people that signed up for the in-stock notifications. I only saw them because I heard they were coming in, and I refreshed the page, and there was 2 colors still left. And while I went to pay, one color went out of stock I got one threadfin shad.
Yeah, dude, I still hadn't bought any. So I bought a Chad Shad a few years ago.
The real one, the OG.
Real one. I got a good deal on it. It was the right color. I did not like it. Maybe I didn't fish it right. Maybe I wasn't chop. Wasn't chopping it enough. I like a Shizzard better. And but one bait's discontinued and one's not. So
Brendan, I was notified 15 minutes after I checked out, after they were gone.
So all right. I'm ready. I'm ready to go eat some. So shout out to my wife, Miss Bait Woman, Brittany. She made Dorito chicken tonight, and I had a little bit, and it is good. My wife can cook. Shout out to her. So
sounds good. Well, if anybody came in late, I think we had some fun tonight, covered some good topics, gave some good perspectives. So whether you're watching the replay on the HellaBass or the Baitman YouTube channel, or the MP3, or the Facebook, be part of that replay gang. And as always, here to help you guys catch more big bass, suck less.